Hello, this is Graham. In this video, I'm responding to some questions about the reasons why we have process groups in counselling training and how students should use them. To answer this properly, we need to understand the significance of the psychotherapeutic journey. So that is where I shall begin. Christ is reported to have spent 40 days and 40 nights in a battle of will with Satan in the Judean desert. Buddha is said to have meditated beneath the Bodhi tree for 49 days, during which he was visited by the demon Mara. Rumi, the Sufi mystic, was guided by Shams in a 40-day retreat in Konya, Turkey. Muhammad had the first verses of the Quran revealed to him by the angel Jibril while he was on an extended retreat in a cave on Mount Hira, 3 miles north of Mecca. In retreat, we silence our thoughts so that we can experience our emotions, both positive and negative, and through them gain insights into our soul, both the light and the dark sides of it. Psychotherapy is a process of spiritual growth. Each school has its own language, but a search for soul, a spiritual journey, is to be found in all of them. Don't confuse spirit with religion. Some psychotherapy trainings are influenced strongly by specific faiths. Sufism, the Kabbalistics, Shamanism, and Christian mysticism would all be examples. The language, practices, underlying theory, and anticipated outcomes will all be wrapped up in their specific language. However, many psychotherapy trainings aim to be neutral in their association with religious traditions, but they are still inevitably spiritual journeys. The psychoanalytic, transpersonal, integrative, and humanistic are all founded on the principle of a soul journey. This is what Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers both called actualization of the self, which would only be achieved by listening to the self, acceptance of the self, and forgiveness of the self. The development of empathy depends, they said, on the therapist engaging with their own self journey that runs alongside it. There are people who find the exploration of their emotions so hard that they engage in the spiritual more as a coping strategy than because they have found the answer to their journey. American psychologist John Welwood came up with the term spiritual bypass in 1984, after noting that some people, by resorting to spirituality to avoid difficult or painful emotions or challenges, tended to suppress aspects of their identity and needs and stall their emotional development. More recently, the terms fake or toxic positivity have been applied to the services of people who adopt a persona of hyper-positivity in order to sell this to others. The practice of retreat is an integral part of many psychotherapeutic trainings. Typically, students will begin with collective retreats over a weekend, then perhaps short individual ones, and ultimately week-long or longer ones. They vary according to the degree of guidance given, the amount of contact with others on retreat, and the definition of silence. Retreats are held all over the world, from shepherds' huts in Dorset to desert camps in Morocco. The students on a psychotherapy training are on a spiritual journey, just as they will be accompanying their clients on theirs. To social animals like us, silence is a signal in itself. We are found to make lots of small sounds, grunts, hums, clicks, whistles, and so on. These are a form of contact call with others in our species as we work alone, to indicate to others in close proximity that we are safe. This may help explain why humans on their own, in a relatively quiet place, get a sense of comfort from humming and whistling, talking to themselves, or having the TV or radio on. It also explains why many humans find prolonged silence distressing. Unconsciously, it suggests that they are in danger. Quiet, silence, inner stillness, and stillness will have different meanings to different people, but fundamentally they are all overlapping states of being, seen as important to the spiritual journey or search for soul. A silent mind, freed from the onslaught of thoughts and thought patterns, is both a goal and an important step in spiritual development. Such inner silence is understood to bring someone into contact with the divine, their divine nature, the ultimate reality, or in humanistic terms, their own true self. Many religious traditions accept the importance of being quiet and still in mind and spirit for integral, transformative spiritual growth to occur. In Christianity, there is the silence of contemplative prayer and Christian meditation. In Islam, the Sufis insist on the importance of finding silence within. In Buddhism, silence and allowing the mind to become silent are an essential feature of spiritual enlightenment. In Hinduism, the Vedanta and many paths of yoga, teachers insist on the importance of silence or mauna for inner growth. In the Pirkei Avot, or Chapters of the Fathers, the Jewish sage's guide for living, it states that tradition is a safety fence to the Torah, tithing a safety fence to wealth, vows a safety fence for abstinence, and a safety fence for wisdom is silence. In Quakerism, meetings for worship are conducted in communal silence until a member feels called, in other words by spirit, to speak from their heart and soul. To the Baha'is, the essence of true safety is to observe silence. The modern-day mystic Eckhart Tolle describes inner stillness as the absence of thought or the space in which thoughts are perceived. Silence has its place in many settings. Yes, in retreats and meetings for worship, but also in private meditation, in the counselling room, and in the process group. Whatever your perspective on faith, and wherever you are in understanding the concept of spirituality, silence provokes a great deal of internal reflection. Without the need to say something or to disturb the silence, our mind fills with anxiety. Our animal instincts take over. Our sense of distress and danger overwhelms us. Our coping mechanisms are fighting hard, but not quite hard enough. To still these defences, we are told to focus on the here and now. Will we break the silence or force ourselves into the first layer of the unknown? As we still the immediate distress, conscious thoughts fill the void. Connected to the recent, they are often destructive, shadowy recollections of our frustrated needs, irritants, unsatisfactory conversations, and vengeful responses. Of course, they can be positive, but remember that trauma is far more powerful. So inevitably, many of our intrusive thoughts are associated with frustrations, unfinished business, fears, and anxieties. To still these thoughts, we are told to focus on the here and now. Will we break the silence, or still these distractions and enter another layer? Diving below these waves, we try to pull ourselves along the sandy bottom. Unconscious emotions begin to appear. Some are light, joyful, enlightening. Others are dark, depressing, and concealing. Again, to still these emotions, we are told to focus on the here and now. Again, will we break the silence, shake off the fears, and experience the light, or succumb to the pain of the moment? There are no answers, only a sense of being, with which we can find comfort, one that enables us to experience fear as a temporary state, a state from which we can return with one layer of our darkness removed. That is what is meant by being in the moment, a sense of separation from the world around us, from the thoughts, from the emotions, a space where we can experience our soul. There is nothing wrong with breaking silence. There is nothing wrong with saying anything. You may feel so strongly about something that you can't contain it. In particular, this may not be your own emotional energy that is demanding attention. Perhaps it's your empathy for others that tells you that their pain needs to be released. Just because someone breaks the silence, we do not hold them to account, but ask ourselves whether it was our emotional energy that drove them to it, and if not ours, then whose was it? The process group is a place to experiment and to receive feedback from others. It is not a substitute for personal therapy. It's a place to explore yourself, your development, how you perceive you are affecting others. Others may agree, disagree, or give you alternatives. Process groups have no leader, no task, and no defined way of doing things. If someone imposes one or attempts to define any of those things, then that is their stuff. You should eye it objectively and ask yourself why they might feel the need to do so. The process group is the most powerful place for you to develop your empathy. As you still your mind, allow it to perceive and process the empathic communication of the others in the group. When you are interrupted by your mind as it attempts to interpret their emotions, allow it to briefly process these feelings before resuming your presence in the here and now. From time to time, someone might say something. If you feel drawn to respond, examine your reason, your purpose, the result that you hope to achieve, and ask yourself what the other person actually wanted. This is where you need a high level of empathy and to draw on it in your reflections. Your response to someone is feedback, but you're under no obligation to provide it. The facilitator may very occasionally take part. They may gently try to support an individual as they struggle to find the words to express themselves. If the group needs containment, then they may intervene. Their choices, though, will be deliberate and not match your expectations necessarily. Whenever they do something, it is worth reflecting on what it was, why they did it, whether it was effective, and how you would achieve the same purpose. The facilitator is just a person on a journey too.